What is up, grumpy old man? My name is TJ. I'm here live with the grumpy old man. They say there's no shame in his game because he is always the same. How are you doing today?
That's me. Well, I'm doing okay, I guess. Not great. Okay.
I forgot to turn on the lights here for the show, Grumpy. I'm sorry. That was amateur-esque move. I do apologize, Grump.
Well, I don't know why you're just putting like a picture on your back wall. Actually, that's probably better, so we don't have to see your face. But still, I don't know what you're doing. You should have been prepared.
I know. We jumped from one podcast right to the next, so you're gonna have to excuse me, grumpy old man. I do apologize. So I had to jump from one podcast right to the next. That being said, a lot of news since our last podcast. I know we didn't have one last week. I was getting married, grumpy old man, so we did not have a TJ and a grumpy old man podcast last week. But here we are again. This Thursday coming live to you after the Islanders game. Thursday evenings are when we do the TJ and the Grumpy Old Man show. How are you, Grumpy?
Doing well, thank you. A little bit unhappy with the NHL today. My favorite team, New York Islanders, got beaten in overtime. A little disappointing.
Yeah, you're not kidding there, Grump. Oh, I think I got the lighting finally fixed. Yeah, I'll tell you, Grump, it was a upsetting game there in overtime for Islander fans, but there is a lot to talk about regarding sports. Some items we won't touch on just because we don't have all the information out yet. Some NFL items we want to wait for a little more information to come out on. That being said, Grump, I think there's no better way to start the podcast than Coach K, Mike Scheiffle, retiring after this year. You talk about one of the icons there of college basketball for years and years, just like Roy Williams was. Coach K retiring after this year. Man, oh man.
Well, Coach K was a better coach than Roy Williams. Probably, I want to say, the greatest coach of all time in college basketball, just because he was able to bridge and be successful back in the olden days where guys would stay 4 years and then go right to the one and dones. And he won NCAA championships playing both ways. I know a lot of people say, well, John Wooden for UCLA, and he was great, but it was a different game back then with the amount of scholarships and everything's more even level now. And, and everybody stayed 4 years. Now, when Wooden was coach, freshmen couldn't even play. So they would have a freshman team. I remember when Lou Alcindor / Kareem Abdul-Jabbar started, that freshman class was better than the UCLA team that won the national championship that year. So just think about that. And that's the type of talent that he had, where it's more dispersed now with TV being, so prolific, that you see all these different programs being able to get top players. That wasn't like that years ago.
Yeah, and I'll tell you this too. We'll touch a little bit on. We do have a comment there from Adrian saying, "Hey, what's up, TJ and the grumpy old man? How you doing there, Adrian? Another listener there for our Islanders podcast."
Hello, Adrian. I'm so glad she mentioned me.
Oh, grumpy old man. He gets a little upset if he's not included. That being said, I mean, it's weird how college basketball has changed significantly over the years. I mean, hey, you look at it. It used to involve and entail, hey, guys would stay, at least 2 or 3 years. Like as you mentioned earlier, it was rare for players being one and done. There's only a select amount. Now it's encouraged to be one and done or gone by your sophomore year. It's almost encouraged. You almost look down upon if you stay 4 years as a senior, which is odd to say. It's the reason why, again, a lot of NBA drafts are even more of crapshoots now than they were beforehand. And, it takes a little bit of the fandom out of college basketball. Just thinking of simply from this standpoint, it's hard to get behind a team when you only get familiarized with a player for the amount of 30 to 40 some odd games, and they rinse and repeat with a new group of players every single season.
Yeah, without a doubt. And the game was better back then also. You think about Michael for North Carolina, for instance, they had Michael Jordan and Sam Perkins and James Worthy. I mean, all on the same team. I mean, just think about that. Jordan didn't leave till he was a junior, and that was the rule back then. You had to wait till your third year. at that particular point. And it enabled players to actually learn how to play the game. Dean Smith was a great coach for North Carolina. Bobby Knight. I mean, they were teaching guys how to play the game. If you're a one and done, how much teaching is really involved? The intricacies of playing team defense. It's just too hard. And I don't think the product is enjoyable. Duke was one of the last championship teams to have everybody stay as a senior, and that's going back to the 90s when they had Christian Laettner, Bobby Hurley, those guys, Grant Hill, those guys all stayed 4 years. But when Kentucky under John Calipari started going to the one and dones, then Coach K kind of jumped on that bandwagon. And to me, the teams weren't as good. Yeah, maybe the talent was better, but the teams weren't as good.
You think I want to interrupt you, Grum, but you think about that those John Calipari teams. It all started. If you look back, it's like, hey, that team with John Wall, DeMarcus Cousins, Derek Favors. I think Michael Kidd-Gilchrist also was a part of it. It's hard to tell. There's so many of those high picks there from Kentucky. But I mean, that John Wall, DeMarcus Cousins, Derek Favors time period. I think Brandon Knight was one of them too, maybe the shooting guard. It's so long ago, hard to remember. But that I feel like was one of the first ones. Was like, hey, every single guy on this team, every single guy who was part of the starting lineup was a one and done.
Yeah, and that was a style that they went, but they didn't wind up winning that year. So, I mean, that's the whole thing. Just because you have all that talent doesn't mean you're going to win. I mean, you see some of these other teams now, they're kind of going back to it, the Gonzagas, who the kids stay there, for 4 years. At the end of the day, those are the teams that are better because you get familiar with the system. You get to fully develop as a person, not as a person, but like as an athlete, as opposed to, you're 18 years old, 19 years old, you still have a lot of growing to do. Where if you're 22, most of your growing is pretty much done. So,
okay, here was the lineup. I'm sorry, it's crazy as you continue further on down the road, you forget some of the players. I also forgot they had Eric Bledsoe at guard. That was the other guard there, and Patrick Patterson. Man, oh man, wow. Ooh.
Yeah, they were loaded. But Coach Hay did the same thing. I mean, I just think about some of the games he was involved in. One of the biggest upsets in NCAA history when they beat UNLV back the year they won their first championship. They had got blown out by UNLV in the championship game in 1989, I think it was, 1889-90 season, and they got blown out by 30 points in the championship game. And the next year, UNLV was undefeated, and they wound up beating them on a Saturday night. I remember I watched the game. It was incredible. Everybody was a Duke fan then. Now, today, I think you'd find more people that hate Duke than like them, but that's what happens when you're super successful. And like I said, and then, of course, the second year when they won the title, they had that fantastic, maybe the greatest college basketball game I've ever seen, or top 5 anyway, when they beat Kentucky in overtime. Another fantastic game in the Elite Eight. I mean, that was just spectacular. Christian Laettner hitting the shot at the end with 2.1 seconds to go. That was a great game. If you ever get a chance to watch that, really, please do. You're going to see 2 teams extremely well coached. Just a great game.
Yeah, Grump, thanks so much. We're kind of moving on a little bit there from Coach K. Again, like his legacy, it's different. You're never going to have someone with a similar legacy, and every single one of those are intricate to themselves. I mean, like, you're not going to have ever like, hey, this guy's going to have a Coach K-S type career. Roy Williams' career is different than Coach K, just like his is different than, the multitude of coaches that have come before him, that Bobby Knight, etc. I mean, Coach K is truly a special one. I don't think there ever will be a guy that has, similar characteristics and similar career as a Coach K.
I mean, no dirt in his program all those years. Clean as a whistle, which is really, really hard to do in today's day and age. Over 1,000 wins as a head coach. It's just incredible. I mean, but you could tell this last year. I think if you look at a lot of these older coaches after COVID, you see them starting to leave. I think it was a real grind. I think the COVID situation was a real grind, honestly. So, there's only one left right now, which is Jim Boeheim, the last of the old-time coaches. So I'll be interested to see when he leaves. He's up in his 70s also. So John Calipari's now the face of college basketball coaching wise, right? Wouldn't you say after this year?
Think about that. Yeah. Calipari probably is. And you wonder how many years left he's got also. It's one of those, we're going to see the changing of the guard regarding, who the face of college basketball is over the next few years. I don't think Calipari's got a lot of years left. I don't think Boeheim's got a lot of years left. We will see definitely a changing of the guard. Be interested to see who steps up and fills those vacancies. Real quick, another comment there from Adrian saying, grumpy old man, who is your favorite player from the New York Islanders?
Favorite current player is Matt Barzal. All time. Ooh, gosh. I want to see, either Bossy, Potvin, Trottier.
Oh, come on. Just give us one.
I can't. They were all so great. I guess Bossy. I guess I'll go Bossy.
Good. We had to press you on the issue. Also want to talk a little bit about the NBA playoffs, Grump. I know we don't talk about them very often. The Los Angeles Lakers look like they're going to have a first-round exit against the Phoenix Suns. I mean, you look at the score right now. Again, we're doing this here live Thursday. After NHL playoff action, the Phoenix Suns in the second quarter are up 45-18. Yikes.
Well, I mean, can that make the NBA happy? Steph Curry out in the pre-tournament,
the preliminary rounds,
whatever you call it, and now LeBron James is going to be out in the first round. What do you think that does for TV ratings, which are down? All right, from 2 years ago, their ratings are down. For whatever reason, they're down. But you're losing your marquee stars, but let's be honest, Phoenix was a better team all year long than the Lakers, and Anthony Davis being hurt certainly didn't help the Lakers.
No, it didn't. But Anthony Davis is back tonight, not playing a whole bunch of minutes. He's only played 5 minutes. I'm not sure if he had an early exit. Again, I haven't been watching.
He did.
Okay,
he re-injured his groin. They said return questionable, so he won't be back.
Yikes. Well, I guess this is time for them to push the new faces of the NBA. They'll be pushing, the Nuggets. They'll be pushing also the Hawks there with Trae Young. It's time for them, I guess, to start pushing some of the newer faces of the NBA. You talk about the changing of the guard. I think we might also see that here with the NBA playoffs, right? Your Currys are out, your LeBron James, your Anthony Davises are going to be out. You wonder, hey, now they're going to have to start pushing some of the younger faces. They're going to have to draw eyes and attention there to the playoffs in some capacity. Losing LeBron James, I mean, he's a marquee guy just in himself. That's definitely going to hurt that.
Let's Giannis, for Milwaukee, but I think they're on the verge. I don't want to speak about it. Either they're rolling in this series or they're on the verge of getting eliminated. I don't know which one. But
who?
Milwaukee with Giannis.
Yeah, the Greek freak there, grumpy old man.
Yeah, he's good. I mean, it's interesting. I just think the star power, with the exception of him, is John Morant a star. I mean, he's certainly playing really well. But do you think, I think NBA, I think John Morant? I don't.
Well, I could tell you this: the Milwaukee Bucks, they did roll over them. They swept the Miami Heat.
Okay.
So Greek, yeah. So again, he's going to obviously be pushed big. John Morant, crazy to think, right? John Morant, well, he was drafted second overall that year, right? I'm thinking back to John.
I don't remember when he was drafted.
From Murray State, right, Grumpy?
John Morant. Yes. I'm sorry. I'm still on Giannis because he's the only guy I consider a star that's left.
Okay, I'm sorry. I thought you were saying John Morant is one of the future stars there. And again, he's put up good numbers here. Again, a young player like that who has put up good numbers this year. They're going to be pushing the young guys. That's just how it's going to be. All the blue blood, the true hardened blue blood name players in the NBA playoffs. I mean, going to be making those early first round exits. Time to start pushing some of the younger faces.
I just don't think the TV executives are excited about LeBron and Steph Curry going out this early.
No, I agree.
Yeah, that's what I think.
Okay. Yeah, I don't disagree. don't think you're going to find anybody with an insane mind who's going to go ahead and disagree there with you. That being said, kind of want to shift gears a little bit. MLB owners are going to be cracking down on the use there of foreign substances by pitchers, talking about some pine tar, some of the sticky stuff they use in order to go ahead and get that extra curve and extra drop on their pitches. You wonder whether that's going to actually be the case, because apparently they've been pushing for this for a while, and it's pretty blatant. A lot of pitchers do it, and it's crazy, right? Pitchers will go out there, they're using sticky substances. They're touching the brim of their hat. Quite obviously, they're using it. They'll get warned by umpires, and they'll still go out there and use it again. And only after about 2 or 3 strikes will they finally actually get thrown from the game.
Well, why the question? See, I always, when they decide to make these proclamations during the year, I'm like, why are they doing it? I always ask why. Well, maybe because, and the reason why they use the pine tar and the sticky substances is so they get a better grip on the ball. That's why they do it, to increase spin rate, get the ball moving in different directions. What does that do? Makes it harder to hit. When you look at Major League Baseball and the batting averages are like 236 for the league, which would be like the lowest of all time. And people aren't watching. They don't want to see a bunch of strikeouts and walks. They're losing viewers. So maybe they want to do this to say, hey, knock it off. You're going to get tossed. This way they won't be able to grip the ball as much, make those spin, make it easier to hit, get home runs back up, get batting averages back up. Maybe that's why they're doing it. I always ask why they do something in the middle of the year, because they've been doing this. What pitchers are doing today, they've been doing since the invention of the game, and it's just been kind of, ignored.
Yeah, I think you're right. Again, I think it's an astute point. The batting averages are low, home runs are low, people aren't watching as much. Now they're trying to find a way to retroactively fix that, right? They de-juiced the baseball, which was, the thing they worked on this offseason, right? They went ahead and make sure that the baseball wasn't wound as tightly, so you'd have less pop off the bat. You're seeing the power numbers drop a little bit. Balls aren't carrying as far. And now what do they want to retroactively do to fix that? Well, they're not going to go ahead and juice the baseballs back up. Now they're going to say, hey, pitchers, it's a known issue. It's a known, it's pretty much, hush, hush known that you are using, substances there to get extra grip there on the baseball. We're going to stop you from being able to do that as well.
And you have, 7/8 no-hitters so far this year, right? And they're like, uh-oh, we went too far. We can't change the balls again. So what are we going to do? Let's see if we can do something to even the game up. I don't know. It's like a typical overreaction. I think that fans want to see offense, but then you're in the conundrum, right? You can't have 4.5-hour games because everything is 13 to 11. So they try to de-juice the baseball, which theoretically is going to less home runs, less offense, smaller game time, but then, hey, people aren't watching. So it's like, what do they do?
Yeah, grumpy old man. Adrian also saying, TJ, who's your favorite goalie from the Tampa Bay Lightning? Probably Vasilevsky. I guess I wouldn't have a favorite goalie there from the Lightning, but I'd say Vasilevsky if I had one. I think he's the best goalie on the Lightning. They got some young prospects coming through, but definitely Vasilevsky. So I thought that was interesting regarding, they're saying that, hey, we're going to really take a proactive measure to stop those pitchers from using pine tar or whatever sticky substance of their choice to try to prevent them from getting extra grip on the ball.
Yeah, I don't like it. I mean, you've been letting them do it forever. I mean, his thing, it's just so you get a better grip on the ball. That's all. It's not like, people think spitball, right? Like, no, that's not what it is. They're just trying to get where they can grip the ball better. And they've been doing it forever.
One thing you might like to this, MLB has also suspended so far 4 pitches for 10 games for a 10-game time period earlier on this season for using these substances on the mound. Guess what? There's also an investigation launched into Trevor Bauer, who was reportedly investigated in April after his balls used during his start were sticky with visible markings on them.
Well, see, because he's not smart enough. He puts his probably up too much.
Hold on. Every single pitcher's doing it. And most pitchers are using it in some capacity. Everybody has their little ways to get a competitive advantage. And that's pitchers doing what they do within the confines of what they won't penalize.
Well, but if his stuff is visible. I mean, because remember, the umpires scuff, they rub mud from like somewhere near Baltimore out of some river, and all the balls, they're never white. They're all rubbed up. They, so that, the guys are able to grip them better. They don't want them being slick. So they rub that stuff up. But if he's saying that it's like visible markings on the ball, that's where you get in trouble. I mean, that's what you can't do. You can put a little something on there, but if you're putting like glob of pine tar on there and throwing it, you're going to get popped. And Trevor Bauer, if that's the case, should have known better. Come on. He's a veteran. He should know better.
Oh, goodness gracious. That he should, grumpy old man. Also worth mentioning today, the Mark Scheiffle hit. Now, this is a one that has caused a little bit of controversy. And I'll put it to you like this, grumpy old man. Before I go ahead and pull this up, I'll paint the picture. It was 1 minute left in the third period between the Montreal Canadiens against the Winnipeg Jets. Canadiens were up 4-3 over the Winnipeg Jets. About a minute left. Empty net by the Jets. I will let the action do the rest of the speaking. I will let the film do the rest of the speaking as I pull that up here, grumpy old man. I know you and I have talked about this a little bit off air, but man, oh man, this is definitely not pretty. Not a good look for the NHL, and I know it has gotten and garnered a lot of attention. Ooh,
I don't have a problem with it.
Really?
I do not have a problem with it. All right. The only reason that he got a suspension is because the guy got knocked out. It's a clean body check. It is a clean body check. He hits him right in the chest. Boom. Right in the chest. And his thing, when you hit a guy, you're going to come up. And his thing is a smaller guy. And, it just happens. I mean, and they say, well, the reason is he didn't make a play on the puck. If he would have made a play on the puck, it wouldn't have been anything. Well, here's the thing. The only reason it was anything is because he got knocked out and fell face first on the ice. That's the only reason it was called. It was a clean hit. It was not, I mean, we can argue if it's a dirty hit. I don't think it was. Was he trying to hurt him? I don't think so. I think he was just trying to stop him from scoring. I mean, you remember, he's flying. He's flying it.
Here's my thing, right? And you look at Barry Melrose even saying, oh, he didn't make a play on the puck. Ladies and gentlemen, the puck was already in the freaking net after he made contact with Evans. So, he wouldn't be able to make a play on the puck. The puck was already in the net. I do have a little bit of a different opinion. When we go ahead and wind this back here, grumpy old man, it's quite obvious, and I'll make sure we freeze frame it right here. Watch Scheiffle here. He's not going to continue to stride it out, right? If you're still flying, you're continuing to stride here. Stride to stop this puck. Watch him ease up here. He doesn't take a single stride.
Okay, the puck is still not in the net, though.
Okay, look at this. Yeah, you're still skating hard. He does not take a single stride after that. He is just gliding. And here's the thing, right? He is ready to absolutely punish and demolish this guy. When you're at this point, here's the go, right? When you're at this point, that puck's going to go into the freaking net.
Okay, but it wasn't in the net. It wasn't in the net, though. It was not in the net. That's my point.
It's in the net by the time he makes contact.
Well, I mean, but he was what, like maybe a foot away? I mean, before it gets in the net, he's maybe a foot away. It's not like the puck was in the net and then he took 3 strides and he hit him. No, that was a bang, bang play. And to me, I don't think it's a penalty. He hit him. He hit him hard. Yeah, it was physical. Absolutely. But if the kid doesn't land flat on his face and have to get taken off on a stretcher, there's no suspension. That's the one thing the NHL does. If something looks bad, well, we're really going to punish you now. This is a guy who does not have a history of playing like that. He just doesn't.
I mean, a different animal, and I will tell you that it's not a good look for him. I mean, you're right. He doesn't have a history of doing that type of stuff. He's the best player on the Winnipeg Jets by a country mile, a best skater. Maybe you could say Huddlebuck, against the Edmonton Oilers was outstanding, shutting down McDavid and Draisaitl there for the most part. That being said, he's the best player, best skater on that team. He's going to be out for at least 4 games. I do want to also mention that. Was that?
4 games. It was 4-game suspension.
That's what I said. He's going to be out for 4 games.
Okay.
That being said.
Now what does Winnipeg, because Winnipeg shook off the rust because they were really rusty going into that game. And they certainly, if the game had 10 more minutes in regulation, they would have beaten Montreal. How do they regroup as a team? Now you're going to find out what Winnipeg is about as a team. When your captain is suspended for 4 games, does everybody step up, or do we shrink from the occasion? You'll be able to find out tomorrow night.
Here's the thing, right? I want you to look really quickly before we even jump into that point. I want you to look at Nikolai Ehlers before you ran me off there, Grump. Look at this by Ehlers. Small little things like that don't get noticed very much. Look at him. He's holding everybody off there, number 27 there, from just dogpiling over Evans. Again, nice guy Nikolai Ehlers doing what he can to prevent, them from trampling him, which is very easy with those scrums. They kind of move. They're amorphous. So nice job by Nikolai Ehlers looking out there for Evans. You're right. How do the Winnipeg Jets react? This is a Montreal Canadiens team to where they won against a Toronto team that they weren't supposed to beat. We'll talk about that in a second, too. They're playing on house money. You wonder what a hit like that does to energize their team going forward as well.
Yeah. To me, Montreal's not as good as Edmonton. They weren't as good as Toronto, but they have the equalizer in net. That's the difference. Hellebuck was fantastic in the first round against Edmonton. He was pedestrian last night against Montreal. But I think, to me, I'm interested to see Winnipeg's reaction more than Montreal's. I mean, this guy who got knocked out, he's not a big player for them. He's a grinder type. I think if you look at the Montreal coach and say, hey, if we have to sacrifice this guy for Scheiffle, I think he'd say, I'd take that every day of the week, twice on Sundays.
Twice on Sundays. Yeah, I don't disagree with you there, grumpy old man. It's going to be interesting to see how that does go ahead and impact it. I want to talk also about the Toronto Maple Leafs. If there are Maple Leaf fans out there, holy crap. The Maple Leafs choke a series away again. Since our last podcast, man, oh man. Toronto Maple Leafs were up 3-1 lead over the Montreal Canadiens, held them to 4 goals in the first 4 games, collapsed, allowed the Montreal Canadiens to beat them in overtime, come back in the series.
They have Jack on Crack Campbell in net, who spit the bit in Game 7. Great job, Jack. I remembered who he was, just a ham and egger goalie. But to me, Toronto has all the offensive talent in the world. They need a heart transplant. That's what they need. If they had the New York Islanders mentality, that team would be really, really tough to beat, but they don't. And they need to make some additions. Sometimes there's addition by subtraction, where maybe some of their big-time goal scorers, one at least, needs to be moved to bring in the right type of player or players who could change the culture and the mentality of that team. I know John Tavares is the captain, but I've never considered him captain material. He's not a rah-rah guy, and I think that for me, honestly, he shouldn't be the captain. They need to bring somebody else, like a Shea Weber type. I'm not saying Shea Weber, but somebody like that. That's what Toronto needs.
Toronto's got a lot that they need. And here's my thing, right? They're a team that has a lot of guys entering the prime of their career, and they haven't made it past the first round of the playoffs since 2003. They need something serious. They've had different coaches, hasn't worked there. They need to do something drastic to change. I really do believe that. You're right. They don't have the heart. They don't have the guts. You wonder what subconsciously that does to the players. As I've mentioned before, when you're consistently losing year after year after year in the first round of the playoffs, it's stuck in your head that maybe this is an us problem. We're destined never to get out of the first round of the playoffs. You wonder how that continues to feed into things, feed into your psyche, feed into your mentality. You might not say it does, but I can tell you one thing. It slowly seeps into professionals' minds. I really do honestly believe that.
And that's what I'm saying. They need a couple of players, not just one, who bring heart and soul, like a Mark Messier. I know it's easy to say Mark Messier. That's the type of player that they need. A Mark Scheiffle, somebody like that. A Mark Stone, who's in Vegas. That type of player. That's a type. They're not going to get those guys, but that's a type of player that they need on the team.
Every player you listed right there, first name started with a Mark.
I know
you need somebody with a Mark in their first name too. I'm trying to pick up on your subliminal messaging, perhaps.
Yeah, I know, but it just happened to work. Maybe the name Mark just breeds leadership. I don't know. But for me, that's the type of player that they need. That's what they need to. They need, like I said, a heart transplant, and that's one thing that they could use. A JG Pageau from the Islanders, somebody like that. Blood guts. A Ryan Kessler used to play for Vancouver and Anaheim. That's a type of player they need. At least one, probably two, for certain. To kind of, you hear some rumors about the stars on the team making lineups and, who they want to play with, who they don't. Well, then you get the wrong coach too. So just some things to think about. They need, to me, I think they could benefit having a Tortorella as a coach, a real hard-nosed guy. I'm not saying John Tortorella, but somebody like that, somebody who's not a player's coach. They certainly need to change the culture.
That is for certain. They do. They definitely do need to change the culture, and that's not something I feel like that can be done overnight. That is going to take some time for certain, Grumpy old man. I also want to talk. You also had mentioned, Grump, Wayne Gretzky on TBS.
Yeah, the next year, the national contract is going to TBS, TNT, and they signed Gretzky as like the lead analyst. To me, I guess they're signing him for name value because, Wayne Gretzky is about as soft-spoken as you're going to find. I don't know what he's going to bring to the table. I just don't see it. I don't think he's going to be critical enough of players. Of course, tremendously talented and a Class A guy, without a doubt. But is that what you want as your color commentator? I don't think so. I think you need somebody with a little bit of juice, and I don't think he brings that. I hope he succeeds because, without a doubt, even as an Islander fan, he's a class guy, without a doubt, but not somebody that I ever would have thought I'd see in a color commentator role. Not at all.
I was about to say, I think that you can't underplay that because he's very soft-spoken. He's not a guy who's had a lot of experience in a color commentator type of role either.
Any experience.
I know he is the great one. That being said,
I'd love to, honestly, who I'd like to see? I'd like to see him bring in Jeremy Roenick, Mike Milbury, bring those guys in. They have opinions. I don't think you're ever going to see an opinion out of Wayne Gretzky. It would be like my hero, Tom Brady. It would be like having him do color commentary. He's like a politician when he talks. That's not somebody you want as a color commentator. It just isn't. You want somebody with strong opinions. You want somebody who's going to be somewhat bombastic. I know the Milbury issue, the comment he had last year in the playoffs. We're not going to touch on that, but I think you want somebody like the grumpy old man, I think. Oh, is that what it is? You're going to have somebody like the grumpy old man in there, huh? I'd rip everybody. I think you'd rip too many, Grumpy. I think you'd find yourself without a job. I think you would find it that ex-NHLers and NHLers would be less than thrilled to work with you. Maybe, well, that's okay. Maybe they could put me behind the glass, like Pierre Maguire and AJ Molesko. Ah, looky there, looky there. Also, big news: Chelsea Football Club won Champions League. Thomas Tuchel. Tuchel. I always mess up his last name. Thomas Tuchel. You mess up everyone's name, not just his name. They're foreign names too, Grump. You got to give me a break, huh? Okay, seriously though, what a masterclass of drawing up a way to beat Manchester City. Manchester City's a better team. Think about where Chelsea was in the middle of the year. Frank Lampard was the coach, and he got fired when Tuchel was dismissed from PSG, Paris Saint-Germain. They dropped Lampard and they brought in, and they were scuffling, like in maybe just like 10th place. They bring in Tuchel. He brings a structure to the team, and he is a really good mind. I didn't think they were going to beat Man City. I just thought Man City was too talented for them. But credit all goes to him and Chelsea for winning their second Champions League. I want to give Chelsea credit for certain. I do. I also think it's important, worth noting, is Pep Guardiola is he a choker? I would say no, because he was coach of those Barca teams that were winning Champions Leagues too. Here's the thing: he had Messi.
Leo Messi on the team, though, too, right? You're telling me without like a guy of a caliber of a Messi, without a guy with a caliber there of, a Cristiano Ronaldo, that he's not able to win? That's my thing, right? He's made it to the Champions League finals, semifinals. That Man City team has had unbelievable talent for a few years now. And it seems like year after year, they get those unfortunate early exits. And this year they make it where they're facing off against Chelsea. They get beaten in league play towards the end of the year against Chelsea. And then like weeks later, they lose again to Chelsea Football Club. I'm just thinking to myself, man, oh man, Man City, you're right, is absolutely loaded with talent. And they still couldn't go ahead and seal the deal there with Chelsea against Chelsea Football Club. Again, I know Kanté was outstanding in Champions League, been outstanding all season long. But Man City, if you're a fan, you have to feel disheartened. I mean, does Pep Guardiola have what it takes to take us to the next level to start winning some of these important trophies?
Okay, well, they win Premier League every year.
Not every year.
Okay,
I get what you're saying. They win Premier League, but here's the thing: Premier League's important. The main goal is to win Champions League. That is the pinnacle. You put the money into the team. You have the salary to win, where you should be in contention every single year to win that. You've got the coach who's supposed to be able to do that. You've got the named players. You have the most depth, I believe, out of any other team in all of soccer. Maybe Bayern Munich might have a little more depth. I think you have unbelievable depth, and you still can't seal the deal against.
And remember, Pep was, before he came to Man City, he was the coach of Bayern Munich. So, I mean, he's been with big clubs that have been really, really successful. If you ask me, would I take Pep Guardiola as coach? The answer is yes. Okay, here's the thing. Why couldn't in earlier years? Man City was not a great team until, he came in there and brought that Barcelona structure and tiki-tac style that they play. They've been consistently a really good team. They put a lot of money into it. And you say, other years they didn't win it. Yeah, but that's when the Spanish league was the Mac Daddy of all the leagues. They were winning every single year. Then the Premier League signed that big contract with NBC to broadcast their games. Now you're seeing the English league take off because, when you got more money, you can buy more players. Does he need a superstar? I think every team needs a superstar in most instances. The fact that he's at the top of the league every year and they're contending, I don't think, and he has won. He has won Champions League. Yes, it's only been with Barca when they had that superior team back in the
Okay, yeah, when they have Iniesta, Xavi, they have all these players who are unbelievable talents. Carlos Pollo, for certain, right? In Bayern Munich, they were looked at as a team that had unbelievable talent too. Arjen Robben, they've got Frank Ribery, they've got unbelievable talent up and down. Forwards, they've got it. Midfield, they have it. Defending, best goaltender in the entire world in Neuer at the time period. Jerome Boateng at his high, Alba at his high. They still couldn't win it, and now they're here at Man City where they have unbelievable depth. They dropped unbelievable, massive amounts of money into that team to make that team go from, hey, we're middle table to, best in the Premier League, still can't manage to win Champions League.
Yeah, well, he was at Bayern, though. I mean, who are the teams they were getting knocked out by? Barca, Juve, or Real Madrid. I mean, those are all top teams with top talent. I don't think you call him a bust as a coach. I just don't. I mean, he was this close to winning this year, and who knows, next year maybe he knocks the door down. I don't know. But to me, he's one of the top 4 coaches in soccer, world soccer. I mean, I don't see how you can.
I think he's an outstanding coach. I'm just saying, I think he's a bit of a choker. That's all.
I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think he's won before. He's won before. If he never won, maybe you could say that, but he's won before.
One time, he consistently is backed. He's been backed by every single team he's ever managed. He's had unbelievable squads across the board. And this is a year, if you look at Chelsea's lineup, you look at what Chelsea has on their team versus what Man City had, he was just outclassed when it came to what type of game plan they had. That's what I mean, right? I mean, Tuchel comes in there. You're exactly right. I mean, like, Chelsea does not have the same name talent, doesn't have the same talent on the pitch. But we're able to effectively shut down Man City the last 2 games they played, most importantly in Champions League.
Okay, in the regular season, they had a whole bunch of guys out with injury. They were resting guys. They'd already clinched the Premier League, so they rested a bunch of guys. in the Champions League finale, it was a tactical masterclass by Tuchel, without a doubt. It was a great job by him. And, but here's the thing. It's not like Man City wasn't pressuring them the whole, the last 30 minutes of the game. I mean, they hung on. Chelsea hung on. And good for them. I mean, they don't win a whole lot. Yeah. And I certainly root for them over Man City anyway. So,
yeah, definitely good for Chelsea. I'm just saying, it's one of those things where you talk about that's not a game they should have lost. You just wonder, hey, was it more of a choke or was it more of an absolute masterpiece by Tuchel? I think it's a little bit of both. That's all. I'm just trying to present the other side of the argument there.
Okay. I'm going to say no on that. And if I have money and I could take a coach, he's one of the top 3 or 4 I'm looking at. Yeah, well, and another thing, Zinedine Zidane left Real Madrid. That's my football club. Left them for the second time in the last 3 years. And anyone who's listened to me talk about Real before, I don't think Zidane is a great tactician, but the absolute best man manager and guy who's able to massage egos of any of the coaches there are. He had that instant respect from being an all-time great player, and he was the man at Real as coach too. He was able to massage the egos of a Cristiano Ronaldo, of a Sergio Ramos. That's a tough thing to do. It really is, but he was able to do that. And they won 3 straight Champions Leagues. No one else has won more than 1 in a row. And he won 3 in a row. And Real won 4 or 5. And who did they bring back? Carlos Ancelotti, who was the coach just before Zidane. And he led them to a Champions League back in 2014. They didn't repeat the next year. They lost to Juve in the semifinals, and then he gets bounced, and they bring in Zidane, and the rest is history. But think about the players that they had. I mean, they were tremendous. And now Ancelotti has to bridge the gap, which Zidane was going to struggle doing because he rode the old guys to the end. He's going to have to be the guy who bridges the gap from the old guys to the young guys, and that's going to be a task for him.
I'll tell you this much. I think Zidane, excellent coach. You want to talk about a big game coach? Zidane's a big game coach. That's what I mean. Does he have the clutch gene? Think about it, right? Every single Champions League final he's in, for certain, Zidane's walked away with the victory. When it matters most, he did have, it's worth mentioning, he did have the best player, the GOAT, the most clutch player of all time, Cristiano Ronaldo there, heading the squad. So, I try to also take that into account.
And Real has never recovered from losing Ronaldo. What can't they do? They struggle scoring goals. And what did Zidane do? He took a team that was all offense and converted them where they're extremely good defensively. But the whole thing is they've signed a bunch of young guys. They're not ready, and they need an infusion of young talent also.
Absolutely, there, grumpy old man. I got another question here. Adrian also wants to know what other favorite hockey team do we have there, grumpy old man, besides the Islanders?
Okay, for me, now when I was a kid, and I'm talking not today. I'm an Islanders fan, number 1, number 2, and number 3. But other than that, I like to watch teams that are really good and talented. And that changes every year. They're not my favorites, but they're teams I enjoy watching. Like I enjoy watching Tampa Bay play or Colorado just because they're so skilled. I love that. And there's more teams that I hate and historically, but teams that I like teams like that. But going back in yesteryear, I was always a fan of the city of Oakland. I love the Oakland Raiders, the Oakland A's, and I love the California Golden Seals because they were a horrible team, but they used to paint their skates white. They were owned by Charles O. Finley, Charlie O. And the Oakland A's were the first team to wear white cleats, and he owned those also. So I was a fan of those, and my first favorite goalie of all time was Gilles Meloche. I followed his career up till the end in Pittsburgh, and I always had an affinity for him because he played for the California Golden Seals, and they were terrible, but they were without a doubt my first favorite team.
I don't disagree. I like watching any type of good hockey. If I'm picking my second favorite team, I don't know. I don't think I've got one. I don't think I've got one, Grumpy. I think, I like watching, enjoy the sport of hockey. Any type of high flying, high octane type of team makes me happy. You can't go wrong at all if you're watching Lightning or the Colorado Avalanche. Outstanding, excellent teams. I did have one question for you, Grumpy old man. If you are determining and deciding between 4 different players on who is the best defensive end that you would like to have if you were building a squad of players, a defensive end that was 25 or under, you've got 4 people to choose from: Myles Garrett, Nick Bosa, or Chase Young. Who are you picking out of that group?
The 2 Bosas. Who's the one who hasn't been hurt?
Well,
I think Nick is probably better than Joey. I'd say Nick Bosa out of those 4. That's who I'd pick.
I guess technically Joe Bosa is also still 25. Yeah, Nick Bosa technically was hurt though, Grumpy. So Nick Bosa has had injuries there in the past.
Yeah, before the injury, I would say him. That'd be the guy I'd pick. I think he's the best
over Chase Young.
Yeah, I don't think Chase Young's. I mean, okay, Chase Young was okay his rookie year. He wasn't great. He had 5.5 sacks, and that's how you measure a defensive end. You could run at him. So I'm looking at Nick Bosa is the guy. I think he's better than Joey.
Chase Young had 7.5 sacks.
Okay. I thought he only had 5.5. It doesn't matter. I'd still pick Nick Bosa.
I'm just saying Nick Bosa, rookie year, only had 9 sacks. I will say this. I think it's an interesting conversation, and that's why I posted it up, because people are all back and forth there on social media, and pretty much is unanimously either between Nick Bosa or Chase Young. It's just one of those interesting things that we're going to look at over time and say, hey, 2 outstanding defensive ends drafted back-to-back years. You wonder kind of who might have the more storied NFL career.
Well, here's the thing. The Redskins have a really good defensive front, and Chase Young was playing one-on-one a lot of times. Let's see when he gets a little bit more attention paid to him. Let's see how that works. Where Nick Bosa, I just think Nick Bosa is a better player than Chase Young. That's all. Better overall player.
Yeah. Again, I know he did get hurt last year, but you wonder what type of jump he might make. Well, Grump, not too much else to cover and talk about here today. Anything else you want to talk about before we kind of wrap today's podcast up?
I want to say thank you to Adrian for shooting us questions today. Yo, Adrian, we love you. I think that's pretty much it for today. Like I said, it was a disappointing loss for the New York Islanders against Boston. So, hopefully we come back on Saturday and next week we'll definitely have NFL news. We'll talk about Aaron Rodgers. Will he get traded? Who's Julio Jones? I heard that he's the favorite. The favorite to pick him up is now Seattle. They're going to have a tough time getting a first-round draft pick for him, a receiver in his 30s who makes a boatload of money. I just don't see how they're getting a first-round pick for him. So it'll be interesting how that plays out, but that has to happen soon.
A lot of things to talk about upcoming, Grump. And again, the best time to find TJ and the Grumpy Old Man podcast is on Thursday evenings. After the NHL season ends, we'll start doing it on a more consistent basis. That being said, the Grumpy Old Man, thank you so much there for being a part of today's podcast.
My pleasure.
And thank you again, Adrian, there, and everybody who does listen to the podcast and live stream. Again, best place to find us is on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter at TJ and the Grumpy